Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Sandy Springs Board of Ethics to order for Wednesday, October 9th, 2020. And well, you please call the roll, please.
Good morning. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Bethany Diamond here, Evan Barron,
Present.
Joshua Heller,
Yes.
Bill Murray, absent, Eric Tillery,
Here.
Heather Crater.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Great. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
Motion to approve. Second.
So approved. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
So approved. New business. So Dan, I think that's your.
Yep, yeah, you're up.
You're up.
Great.
Dan Lee is here. He is the, give us your title because I don't want to miss.
I'm the city attorney for Sandy
Thank you.
Springs. We talked to the clerk. She said she thought it might be helpful to the board as a whole and individual members to talk about the role of the board and the role of the members. And I'm at the risk of sounding old. I've been doing this a long time. Dealing with a lot of ethics boards. I've been practicing law for 39 years, all of it representing local government. And the role of an ethics board in general is to set a standard that's a little higher than what the statutes require. And in Sandy Springs, that would mean federal, state, and local ordinances. And they govern issues and actions of elected folks and appointed personnel in the city over and above what the law mandates or prohibits. And so to oversee that, the adjudication of that, our charter in Sandy Springs, like most city charters, allows for the mayor council to appoint an ethics board. And that's your role. Now, here's a, this is a pet peeve of mine in the 39 years of practicing law. I always tell, my best example of it is council members will say, they'll be having a debate about buying something, paying for something, and they'll say, do we have to bid this out? And they'll talk about it a little while, then they'll finally turn to the lawyer and say, what's the rule? And I always say, well, why wouldn't you? You know, and why do you need to look at the rule to determine what ought to be done? And the answer is you shouldn't. And many times in the good old days of practicing law, when somebody came in with what they thought was a problem, it didn't get to the level of breach of a duty or legal duty or a law. It's somebody that didn't act right, didn't do what they were supposed to do, but it really wasn't actionable. And those are the areas that are tough. And luckily in Sandy Springs, I'm Catholic, I'm not going to wood. We haven't had any in the 7 years I've been here. And that's great. When the council and the mayor council pick people to be on a board, including the ethics board, the mayor tries to find, quality folks that are involved and love their community and want to be more involved. And he picks them and he puts them on the ethics board, and then there's nothing to do. It's so hard sometimes. The board sits in a capacity that the law recognizes as a quasi judicial body. And that means a lot of things, but it means two main things. One, you only act when something is filed or presented to you. And I'll go a little step stronger. You cannot act until something like that happens. And my best example is, Rocky didn't like this example because she's heard it too many times, but there was a city that had a zoning board, and a zoning board in many cities is a quasi judicial function. People don't like the decision of the building inspector or the the zoning officer, they appeal it to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So that body has to sit collectively, never individually, and hear the evidence from both sides, the building person and the applicant, and make a judicial decision about who's right. And they cannot, just like the ethics board, get involved in preview of any issue. There was a zoning board where a overzealous member decided that somebody was breaking the rules, so they started surveilling the person he thought was breaking the zoning rules. And he got arrested for stalking. And that's a severe case to make a point. It's not the role of a member of a quasi judicial body to get involved prior. It'd be like Judge Whitaker going with the police to go investigate the crime before the crime got to the courthouse. And to say you wouldn't do it is not correct. You cannot do it. So it puts good people, good individuals, energetic and active individuals that the mayor likes to find and put on an important board in a spot where they want to do more. And it's just not that spot to be in.
Okay, so that addresses some of the frustrations that we spoke in our previous meeting.
And I'll admit to you, part of my job is to make certain that nothing ever comes in here if I come across it. And so we've been very fortunate in Sandy Springs. We have some really fine elected people, and we've had some of the best city managers I've ever seen that hire really, really good folks. And it makes for a better operation. A better operation makes for a lack of ethical considerations.
What are some of the things that you have seen in other or heard about in other cities? I'm just curious, what are some ethics violations?
All full disclosure, having been a lawyer for 39 years, you run across some people who don't know how to act a lot. I was in the state Senate for many years, and there are a lot of folks in the state Senate. Eric's brother's not one of them, who doesn't know how to act. He's too ethical. I tell him that all the time, by the way. He's too nice to be around there. But just people have a hard time representing something other than their interest. You see it in politics today. And as a lawyer, I can tell you, there's an art to representing somebody. And lawyers are challenged with it today about putting their clients' interests ahead of their own. Elected folks, sometimes, I won't mention any names, they have a hard time representing people. That's why sometimes you get a partnership that doesn't make it. They're used to doing just things for themselves. It's very, very difficult. So to me, to answer your question, that's generally the basis for all the ethical problems I see. I think it's kind of like, I know I'm sounding old, but it's in today's world, some people don't even know to look to see if what they're doing is ethical. We have a couple of council members who are just, they wake up every day and worry that they're doing the right thing. And that's not a bad worry, Rabbi probably wishes everybody would do that. Self-reflection is the best way to look at it. My old law partner used to say, if you got to ask, probably shouldn't do it.
Although I would say the flip side is often it's the people who don't ask me that I'm more worried about. Unless you're the rabbi to ask a question, you're at least wondering.
It's a moral compass, at least.
Even if it's not pointing in the right direction, at least have a moral compass.
Yeah. Yeah, one great thing we have today that I think has stifled a lot of ethical claims is that everybody's being watched. You know, everybody's got a camera, everybody's watching everybody else, and there's a lot of scrutiny, and scrutiny is a good thing, I think. Review is something we favor here at the city. Rocky will tell you, they don't spend $10 around here without 6 people signing off on it. It's wonderful, actually. But that's pretty much the things we see. And you see the paper, you see things around town. And that's another good point. Some ethics boards, like the State Ethics Commission, they have a different charter. Their charter, they actually do things like receive disclosures from candidates. They receive disclosures from lobbyists. They also act in a judicial function in that they hear complaints that people file. They're slow in getting to them, but they do hear them eventually. But that's pretty much what we see.
So if there was ever an ethics violation, what would be the protocol? How would it go through the system? And what would our role be?
They would file it with the clerk. Clerk would notice the board. The board would form a hearing. We'd set a date for both sides to come in, and you hear the evidence from both sides and decide if someone's committed a violation.
Are there any recent times when this committee has actually met to do that?
It hadn't been speak of in Rocky.
I think the last time was like 2009, 2012.
I remember this conversation from like last year where they were trying to think back to.
Yeah.
I think there have been 2. And one of them was somebody self-reported, which I think was just maybe, but yeah. But, and again, I can tell you that it's not like people just don't do it, because Sandy Springs, all the bragging I was doing, the citizenry reflects what I mentioned about the operation of the city. Never seen such, the complaints that we get are so conscientious. I mean, I got one yesterday about a derelict house. It had photographs, it had the tax assessors. It looked like 4 lawyers did it. And really, yeah, it impresses me that the general populace of the city is like that. So with a populace like that, they won't allow inappropriate conduct. So it's not like it goes missing because you have so many great observers out there.
I wasn't present at the last quarterly meeting for the board, but I think my curiosity is similar to your question about me, is similar to a zoning board. I want to be technically capable if and when a matter came to light. And I think that's my question. If I was sitting on the zoning board, would I be capable of overseeing a hearing if it actually came to the table? I don't know what I do, but what do I technically do if something actually comes to light?
Well, I'm missing something. What do you mean? If you are on this is a hypothetical.
It's hypothetical.
If you're on the zoning board and a case
Having
comes.
the appropriate knowledge to be able to.
Or even to translate it, let's say we get a call in 3 months, there is a hearing. What skills do we need to have? What information do we need to have? You know, I dabble in legal stuff, but like, you know, what do we need to know to actually do our job if we have to do it?
Every case is driven by the evidence. So it'd be hard to sit here and tell you exactly that every case is alike and that there's an outline of how you would do it. It's as simple as, or as complicated as, the complaint comes in accusing the candidate of something or the employee of something, and the employee presents the evidence that they didn't do it. And then there's a determination about if the if what he or she is accused of is actually a rule in the city to follow. As an example, a zoning case, let's say one of the planners, the city, when somebody makes an application, the city staff, very thorough, they look at the request, the application, and they go over it and they make a recommendation most of the time. Sometimes they don't. Maybe 2% of the time they don't. They make a recommendation. Let's say people were against it. A lot of people were against it. They found out the staff recommended it. Somebody accuses a planner of being first cousins of the applicant. So the simple question would be, is that your first cousin? And did you participate in it? And why didn't you disclose it if it's the case? It's that simple.
And so we would be looking at the ethics code or potentially other legal material that we would review in advance.
Yes,
And would we conduct the hearing ourselves or?
yes.
Dan, would your office provide support?
Oh, yeah,
for-
I will be there.
So basically if this happens, we need to like really look at the code carefully and then consider evidence. And are there rules of evidence, like what's admissible, what's not?
Generally, yes.
But that would be vetted through your office.
Well, in consultation with the board. So many times in the application of rules and laws is made complicated when the goal is to simplify it. And so at the end of the day, and you got to look at every case on its own merits and its own facts. So it's really hard to sit and talk about a hypothetical, how you would handle it, but it's as simple as hearing both sides with some guidance about what, can and can't be. My example is pretty cut and dried. If there's a family member involved, is it a conflict? Does the statute say that is a conflict? In that situation, probably it is not, because the recommendation is just that. It's not the decision. Now, an ethical violation would be if somebody who made the decision had a familial relationship in it or a monetary interest in it. A recommendation is not one of those. Now, I can tell you without hesitation, if that's the case, Rocky's boss wouldn't like it because she's like straighter than straight. So disclosure is a wonderful thing. Lets everybody know. The good news is the mayor's good at this. He picks people who know what they're doing, who will recognize if they don't know something. Those are the most dangerous people, ones that think they know something and don't. And you all asking these questions confirms that the mayor knows what he's talking about. So I have no doubt in my mind you can handle it. Heaven forbid it happens.
It's like giraffe insurance. God forbid we ever have a plague of giraffes, we're covered.
You said this on the eve of the meeting.
Yeah, that wouldn't put anything past the happening. A lot going on.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I certainly appreciate this. This has
Oh.
clarified a lot for me. I think there's always been that it's a little bit of it's a scary thought that if something came in front of us, like, what do we do? So now it's a little bit clearer.
The city has a lot of resources. It furnishes a lawyer. The clerk has seen it all. So you have assets that will help you. And again, I think you can find confidence in the fact that the mayor chooses well, and we'll be there to help you.
Thank you.
And if you get another question, Rocky is a great resource, but if you need something from the legal department, don't hesitate to call us.
All right. I appreciate it. All right. Is there any old business we want to discuss? Anything from our previous meeting?
So, if I may, I just wanted to share with you
I'm
guys.
sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't write it on the agenda. I just wanted to share with you guys. So the board meets annually in January. And then at that time, that's when you set your like regular meeting schedule for the calendar year. So you'll receive a note within the next 30, 45 days, setting that January meeting for your annual meeting. And then, you know, at the time, we're likely going to present to you guys, continue to meet quarterly, and then you can make a decision whether or not if there's business coming up or no business, if you want to keep those meetings or forego those meetings until the next annual meeting.
Okay. And if I can throw my 2 cents in there, I think it's important if we're going to function as a board and if we're going to ever deal with ethics violations that come forward, that we need to have some sort of relationship to one another. And I think meeting quarterly, even if it's for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Is something that we need to consider maintaining.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree.
And then if there's other resources you guys want or other things you want to, the other things we could bring to the meeting to support the work that you do, just let me know. We're happy.
And we're open to suggestions. on
Sure,
that.
yes.
So,
I'd just like to get to know some of the other board members in the other various departments. That'd be nice, such as the zoning board.
Yeah.
Well, how often do they meet? Do they meet monthly?
So we have 2 boards under our zoning sort of category, the Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission. Each of them meet monthly as cases appear before them. And then, so we talked, the mayor used to host like an annual meeting with all his appointees to the various boards. It's been a while since we've done that and we tried to get one going this year. It's just been a while, but I think for 2025, it's something we can pull off. And that would be an opportunity to meet everybody who's appointed to the various city boards and hear from him directly.
light a fire under him. You tell him.
Well, I wish I could say it's him. It's not him. We just need to pull the staff resources together to support the idea. So
Okay,
in 2025 for sure.
this is good. All right, so now is there any old business?
Motion to adjourn?
So second.
Okay, this meeting is hereby adjourned.
Great.
Thank you.
And thank
Thank
you
you.
so
No, my
much.
pleasure
That
to
was
meet all of
really
you.
informative.
Let us know if we can help you.
Did you put the sheet about leadership academy?
Yes, so we finished that up.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
Stan, good to see you.
It's been a year.
Oh, wow. Oh, you meant like it's
Yes.
just been like when I was saying it, it's been a
It's been
year.
perfect.
I was like, wait,
I can
it's been a full year yet.
Near the end of the month, so.
Okay.